You're listening to the How to Talk to Girls podcast with your dating coach, Trip, from tripadvice.com. Do you struggle with getting girls to like you? You'll learn step by step how to talk to girls to create deep connections, whether it be for one night of wild fun, a 1-week fling.
Are you currently involved in a sexual relationship?
Or for a lifelong partner.
Full of long-lasting pleasure.
Here's your host, Trip.
Hey, welcome to the How to Talk to Girls podcast. This is your host, Trip, from tripadvice.com, and today's episode is sponsored by the Spartagen XT to help boost your sex drive. So if you have any troubles with boosting your sex drive, boosting your libido, feeling and looking stronger in the bedroom, getting your confidence back in the bedroom, being able to keep an erection or help with finishing too quickly in the bedroom, then this all-natural supplement called Spartagen XT will help you today. It's 100% natural. What does that mean? That means it's only filled with vitamins and herbs. That's right, to help you with libido support. So go check it out at SpartanLibido.com. And it's just a supplement, just like buying protein or buying fish oil. The same idea, comes in little capsules, and you can learn about how it can help you today. Go to SpartanLibido.com. All right, today's episode is a special one with someone I'm bringing back that I've interviewed in the past. Her name is Ellen Smoke, and this woman is beautiful inside and out. And basically, I brought her on today because we were having a conversation, and I interrupted the conversation. I said, this is too good information. I want to talk about this on a podcast. I want to record an episode. So lo and behold, we hopped onto Skype and we recorded our conversation that is going to teach you all about how to deal with girls who might be a little crazy, how to deal with fights with a girl that you're in a relationship with or that you're dating, and how to be more masculine in a relationship, how to be able to understand when a girl is being more masculine and being more feminine. These are all very important things that you need to understand if you want to grow a relationship with another woman. So if you want to learn today from one of the best, Ellen Smoke, who is really just amazing at what she does. She coaches men and women through relationships, and she has a very, very hardcore understanding of the feminine and the masculine and how that all works and how that all ties together. And we reference a lot from David Deda's book, The Way of the Superior Man, which I highly recommend that you go check out. We talk about that in the podcast episode, the interview that we do. And, we just talk about how you can be able to deal with a woman. A lot of guys have trouble dealing with women and might run off the second that it gets difficult, when a woman gets, quote, crazy, or when she gets too emotional. How do you deal with those things? Why is it important to deal with those things? All that and more on today's episode on the interview with Ellen Smoke, coming up in just a minute. By the way, if you've not left a review yet for the podcast, go ahead and do that. Go to ratings and reviews in iTunes. Leave us a review. It definitely helps out if it's something that has helped you. And if you have a question, you can call in 323-432-0025, and I'll answer it here on the podcast. And we'll do a special episode geared towards your question. But without further ado, let's get into my awesome conversation with a good friend of mine, Ellen Smoke. Hey, Ellen, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Trip?
That didn't sound convincing at all. All right, let me let me tell the guys, the guy who's listening right now, what's going on. Basically, Ellen, I've had her on before. This might be maybe like our third interview together on this podcast alone. And one of the reasons why I keep bringing her back, beyond the fact that we are good friends, is that she just has a lot of great wisdom to share. And I look up to her personally as a mentor. She shares just amazing advice and teaches me a lot. And we were literally having a conversation about love and breakups and how women can be a little nuts sometimes and why they get a little crazy and how they're misunderstood. And I thought, this is just information that I want to get out to, to the listeners. So that's why we're doing this. And Ellen, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. I appreciate it.
Of course. Well, we were just having a fabulous conversation, the two of us, and figured what we were talking about and sharing would be helpful to other people. And this is very important information, this masculine, feminine dance dynamic, duality, sometimes war that we have going on in our relationships. So we were just talking about David Data's Way of the Superior Man.
Yes. Yes, and he explains a lot of great stuff in there. We're talking about how it's kind of like the Bible for men. So if you have not checked that out yet, I highly suggest you go on Amazon and pick up a copy, because it just teaches you a lot of great information on how to be more masculine, how to step into masculine, and it talks about how to really discover who is stepping into their femininity. Maybe it's a guy friend that you know, maybe it's a girl that you're dating. I was just telling Ellen, because we were talking about breakups, is the breakup that I recently went through was with a girl who I thought was maybe a little bit more masculine. And it's funny because, and maybe you can explain this better, because when I say masculine, Ellen, you know what I'm talking about, but it's not like she was butch or she was like lesbian or like, you know, wanted to play sports, or it wasn't like that. It was in kind of other ways. I mean, have you ever known any of your female friends or anyone who's been more masculine rather than feminine?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's happening all over the place. It's been happening since women went into the workplace. And, you know, we see this on Mad Men. If you've been watching the TV show Mad Men, you know, women put on suits. They went into boardrooms. They were sexually harassed. They weren't appreciated for being there. They were super smart and had a lot to offer, but up until this point, they had been the more submissive housewife. And so throughout the generations, women have had to step into and access this more masculine side of themselves, and it might still mean that they look sexy as hell in a business suit. It has nothing to do with looks, but it has everything to do with women really wanting to birth their business dreams, their goals, their purpose out into the world. And if you read, sorry about that, if you read David Data, you know, he talks a lot about masculinity, the underlying driving force of masculinity being purpose. And if you look at what's happening in the world today, there are just as many women, if not more, working on a purpose as there are men. Well, in order to work on a purpose, you have to focus on it. You have to set goals. You have to work your ass off. Sometimes you have to fight like hell, whether it's through your own fear or your own self-doubt or other people's doubt in you or disbelief in you. Women have had to switch into this role of really fighting for what they believe in and fighting for their purposes. And it's all very masculine. So we have a lot of successful, driven, powerful women out in the world, and really the more successful ones are the ones that have realized that yes, you can get a lot of shit done by being in your masculine, but I can actually get a lot more done by still being in your feminine. But it's an interesting dance for women to have to play, especially because when they are in their more feminine energy, they have to be in their emotions. Feminine, according to David Data and people that teach this kind of wisdom, the feminine is anything that moves. It's the air, it's the wind, it's the rain, it's the ocean, it's the tide. Anything in nature that moves is considered the feminine energy. So when women are in their feminine, it means that they're moving from their emotions. It means that they're moving moment to moment. And so hence, here comes the topic of the crazy girlfriend, right? Because when women are really in their feminine and they're really embracing their feelings and they're embracing the present moment, which is how they actually are so sexy and attractive to you. It's the same quality that makes you want to have sex with them. It's the same quality that's going to drive you absolutely crazy. Because when we are in this more feminine place, when we are just letting the world kind of move us and our emotions move us rather than being like the masculine, which is trying to get from point A and trying to get shit done all the time, then we are then in a volatile state to however we're feeling in every given moment. And this is what becomes difficult for relationships. And I was sharing before we started recording with Trip that I just got out of a relationship where when I look back at it, I could see this happening. I'm a very feminine woman. I wasn't always as much in my feminine as I am now. And the more in my feminine I become, the more emotional I become. And the more I will say one thing and then mean another, or, push somebody a little bit and, expecting them to, embrace me and tell me everything's going to be okay. But at the same time, when men are in a situation, they don't realize this is happening. They don't realize that it's just a fleeting emotion. You're hearing your woman say that she doesn't want to do something, or that she doesn't want you, or that she wants something else, when in reality, she's just expressing an emotion that has nothing to do with her real, honest truth. And so I saw some breakdown in my past relationship because of this, because I do live my life from a place of just letting my feelings flow, and at the same time confusing the hell out of the guy that I was dating, because all he saw was, me being happy one minute and upset the next. So that's why I really think that you really hit the nail on the head, Trip, with this book being the Bible, because it goes into this and it gives men some really practical advice, some things you can do in the moment when you see your girlfriend going off the deep end or going down the well, is what John Gray from Men Are From Mars calls it. Both of those books actually give some very practical information of just kind of how to handle your woman's emotions. Because the thing is, if you tell her to stop having her emotions, if you say, I wish you would figure this out, I wish you'd stop doing this, then eventually, if she listens to you, eventually she's going to have to, the only way she's going to be able to stop doing that and stop being so emotional is by going masculine. And once she does that, the time goes on, and she continues to do that because she has to continue to be the rescuer. She has to start becoming the rescuer of her own feelings, instead of you coming over to rescue her and giving her a hug and an embrace and a kiss and telling her everything's going to be okay. She has to go into her masculine and become her own hero. And eventually, that's when the sex dies. That's when you start having a girlfriend that's more like a roommate. You can't have a really hot, sexually charged, passionate relationship with a man who's in his masculine and a woman who's in his masculine. So, who wants that to happen? We all hear about that all the time.
Right. Again, David Data describes it as polarities, right? So think about a magnet. There's a plus side and a negative side. And, the opposites attract to each other like a magnet, right? Plus attracts the negative. And so it's the same thing here, is there's masculine and feminine, and they're each different sides of a polarity, and they attract to each other. So it's like, yeah, just like you were saying, Ellen, if you're a guy who is masculine and you're living with a woman or dating a woman who is also stepping into her masculine, a lot of that attraction and chemistry can kind of switch off because you're not having that pull, right? It's like because the male at the end of the day is going to be attracted to a girl who is a little bit more free, a little bit more open, and not so rigid. It's funny, like as a guy who's experienced dating all different types of women, at times you're like, oh, it's great dating a girl who's a little bit more masculine because they're a little less crazy. They're not fighting with you as much. They're a little less emotional. It makes things kind of easy. But at the same time, that sexual energy and that sexual chemistry is dead. And it's like, well, you don't want that, right? So it's almost like this interesting trade-off. It's like, yeah, you'd rather be with a girl who's more feminine because you're going to be more attracted to her. It's gonna make the relationship stronger and last a lot longer.
Yeah. And women are ultimately stronger when they do allow themselves to express their emotions, right, and just be crazy in a moment and be okay in the next. They're more powerful because that feminine energy is what makes them powerful. That's why feminine power is a big topic now in the transformational community, in the personal development space, because women have kind of naturally gotten away from it since we've been out there working and going after our own purposes and building our own businesses and building our own dreams. So there's a big movement for women to go back into their feminine. When you have a couple, and I would encourage, anybody listening in, that one of your criteria to getting into a relationship would be to, choose someone who does have a purpose for their life. And it might not be something that they're doing, it doesn't mean that they have to be owning a business too or doing the same things that you're doing, but that can feel a sense of purpose somewhere in her own life, even if it's joining you and your purpose and what you're creating in your life, so that the two of you have a sense that you're making the world a better place together. That's really, really important for your relationship to last. The relationships that we see lasting for the long run are the relationships where people feel like they're together for a reason. And some people would say that they're together because, they believe in God and they believe that their relationship is has been divinely timed and given to them. Some people are, working on projects together, giving back together. But in some sense, make that a priority. Are we making the world a better place together? And if that is something that you want and that does resonate with you, then these polarities between masculine and feminine are even more important, because the woman, feminine power is going to grow in the presence of masculine power and vice versa.
Right. And that's when it gets super powerful. I want to talk to you a little bit about something you were saying earlier in terms of, you said you were acting a little bit crazy or quote crazy, emotional at a time in your past relationship. And there was something that the guy could have done that's kind of more practical that would have kind of made you start thinking different. I don't want to give away any of it, but I kind of want you to tell that little story that you told me, which I think was just super, super powerful.
Yeah. There is some advice in David Data's book, The Way of the Superior Man. And it's so simple. It's just little things that you can do when you see your woman, your girlfriend, getting emotional or starting to say things that, you hope she doesn't mean, or, even just lash out at you, or, get a little snippy. He gives some really good things that you can do in the moment. And I kind of don't want to give them away either, Trip, because they're almost so simple that I want you guys to read the book and really get the wisdom out of the book, and then learn some of the simple things that he shares. But I'm reflecting back on this relationship that, it's not totally over, but we've hit some bumps recently. And I'm reflecting back on it going, oh my gosh, if that one little simple move, if he would have just done that one little simple move or said that one little simple thing, I would have just totally calmed down. Like the storm of the sea would have been over and I would have been calm again. I mean, that's kind of the visual that I get, Trip, when I think about the masculine feminine. It's like the feminine is the storm and the masculine is there to calm it. And granted, you're not, we're not asking you to, be a superhero or save everyone that needs to be saved. We're just suggesting that even the healthiest, most confident, secure women, that if they're in their feminine, they can't help but be this way sometimes. And, I consider myself one of the most confident, courageous women that I know. And I've been studying relationship and teaching relationship advice and transformational advice for many years now. And I still got myself into a relationship where I acted in some of these, crazy emotional ways. It was something that I was kind of beating myself up right after, right after it happened. I was like, why did I do that? Is there something wrong with me? Is there, have I not done the work? Do I have some issues? And the answer is no. Well, the answer is yes and no. We all have issues. We can work on them and we can heal them, and but we're human. And so yes, of course I still have my issues, but at the same time, I'm a fully feminine woman. I have embraced that. And I think that these books and these teachings and these wisdom teachers are so important for us, because we can be totally normal and totally crazy all at once. And we need some learning and some wisdom and some education around the opposite sex to understand that just because they're acting like that, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's actually a really good thing. Guys, you want a woman who can express these emotions, because it means that she's passionate. It means that she's being a woman. It means that that she can love you and love the world around her, and she can be fucking upset with it too, and she's not bottling it up, which is a really good thing. We talked about that too, about how, most of us bottle things up.
Right.
So I think I answer your question in a bunch of different ways.
No, I mean, absolutely. One of the cool things too that what you said in there, and what I want to kind of highlight too for the guy who's listening, is that it sounds like at those times the guy is the rock, like he's being the rock. You know what I mean? He's being kind of like the rock in the relationship. Like he's like, all right, listen, like everything's going to be okay. I'm here. You're going to be fine. Nothing bad's going to happen. He's being kind of like the strength, and obviously that's extremely masculine. You know what I'm saying? So that's what feels to me like something a guy has to remember to do when he's in the relationship. But the thing that's interesting too is that guys go through their own little turmoil. They get stressed out. They get upset. They can get emotional too at times. So do you think, Ellen, if a guy ever gets to that point that maybe a girl does, where he's stressed out, emotional, he needs the woman to be a rock, is that going to make him feel will that make him appear more feminine? And if so, is that a bad thing?
No, I think that women embrace men who will show their emotions. We want to take care of you. We don't want to be your mom, but we're motherly, and we want to take care of you, and we want to make you feel better, and we want to, clean the scrape on your knee, or, take care of, make you chicken soup when you don't feel good. It's our nature. And it makes us feel validated that we're not the only person in the relationship that feels vulnerable.
Oh, interesting. Tell me about that.
Right. It's vulnerability is a hot topic now too, because of our wonderfully wise, beautiful, author friend, Brene Brown. The Power of Vulnerability would be another good read for everyone. But, women, those of us women who don't understand this as much, understand that this emotional, what looks like emotional volatility is really just us being women, and it's us being feminine, and it's just the female in us, it's the woman in us, and it's something we shouldn't be embarrassed of. But I think a lot of women, because of the way, a lot because of the way our society is, and a lot of because how we were brought up, we have kind of been taught that showing this emotional volatility is a weakness. And we've also been taught that vulnerability is a weakness, which it is not. Vulnerability is actually one of the greatest strengths that you can have. We've also been taught as women to be ashamed of this emotional. We're just going to call it emotional volatility for conversation's sake, even though it's really not a volatility. It's really a beautiful feminine power.
Right.
But we've been taught to be ashamed of it. And we're also being taught inside relationships, we're being condemned for it. We are being, we're being left for it. We're being broken up because of it. We're being dumped because of it. We're being rejected because of it. And so we're also learning as women to start just to hide that and to not be that. Like it's something we should be ashamed of.
I think same thing with men too.
For men too. Yeah, for men too. And so, we are all emotional creatures in some fashion, men included, and some men will go, just say right up front. In fact, I was just talking to a guy recently who just, it's one of the first things he said about himself was that he was an emotional guy. And that's really nice for women to hear. It's really good for us to hear that you have emotions at you and how you feel about things and what you think about things and how things affect you. And it allows us to be okay with who we are. It gives us validation. And it also allows us to see a side of you that we can really bond with and really appreciate. It's the reason why, girls bond with girls so well is because we're so vulnerable and we just, tell each other everything and we hug and we cry. And, you reach a different level of bonding or bondedness, with your woman when you can let her see your weakness as well. And, think about it like this. It's like, men, you have your purpose every day. You get up and you're working on your purpose or your job or whatever you want to call it. And you go out into the world and you're conquering it, right? You're like, You are that hero. You are that, you're at battle, you're at war, you're conquering the world. And then you come home at night and you kind of just need to take off your armor and maybe put your head in somebody's lap. I can promise you that the great kings and, emperors and, all the people in history that went out and fought these battles, they had these wonderfully soft, feminine women that they came home to. Then a little bit of that needs to be brought back into our relationships these days. Instead of two people coming home and two people having been at battle all day. And it doesn't mean that women shouldn't be out there and doing their thing. I think absolutely. But I think when we start to come back home at night, then we need to be very conscious of the roles that we play. And it makes for a much more beautiful, copacetic living arrangement. You'll make a lot more love this way. You'll have a lot more fun this way. And, that's what ultimately we want at home, right?
I mean, absolutely. And this brings me to something interesting, too, that I think maybe you can help out with. A lot of guys might be listening to this and hearing this, and I think here's a really good question that they probably want answered right now is, where do you draw the line? Because I tell men all the time, one of the ways to attract a woman is to be vulnerable, right? Is to be honest and truthful. And I hear a lot of guys asking questions like, or not asking questions, more like they're saying statements of like, no, that's the pussy way to do it, and like, no, that's being beta, right, as opposed to alpha, things like that. And that's sad that they're kind of learning things the wrong way here. But in some cases, I do believe that there is a line to be drawn where if you're too emotional as a guy, if you're too vulnerable, if you're coming home too much, like battle's been hard and stressful, and you're always looking to your woman for help, I think that has a potential to maybe stress out a relationship where the woman starts to not see the masculine.
Go talk to a therapist, hire a life coach. I definitely agree that your relationship doesn't need to be the therapy couch. However, having a way to have open communication, not just a way, but having open communication and being able to share is extremely important inside that relationship.
Yes.
There's a reason your relationship, if we look at this, and Trip's going to love this because I always go in this spiritual direction. But if we look at the spiritual side of relationships, universal intelligence, God, whatever's co-creating all of this with us, is purposefully putting people on our path that can help us grow, that can help us up-level our lives, that can help us overcome our fears and insecurities and doubts, and really help us conquer ourselves, so that we can then go out and conquer the world, so that we can then go out and make the world a better place. We can't make the world a better place if we haven't made our inner world the best place that it can be. So the universal intelligence, God, whatever is up there saying, okay, well, Trip, you have, I want you to be able to make the, world a better place around you and affect the world around you. So I need you to meet so-and-so over here, because she's going to help you deal with whatever you need to deal with inside yourself to make you an even more fucking fabulous man, right? So that means that you're going to trigger each other's deepest, darkest wounds, your fears, your insecurities, your doubts, your trust issues, all of it's going to come up. And I had, this recent relationship that started happening inside of pretty quickly. And after it was over, and after it kind of scared both of us, he said to me, I just don't understand why it was good for a couple of months and then it got hard. Like it didn't take long before it got hard. And it was, what I heard him asking me was why, it was almost like he said, why couldn't we have gotten through a year honeymoon stage first before it got hard? And my answer was, because that's not how it works. When you put two people together that have the potential for greatness as a couple, so that they can go out and make the world a better place. They have greatness for, they can make people around them better because they're in their presence. They can make their businesses better because they, love and support each other. When two people have the opportunity to do that for one another, well, there's usually some shit that needs to happen on the inside of both of those people for them to be the best, for them to be their greatest selves. So typically, all that stuff that we need to deal with starts to get triggered really fucking fast. And most of the time we run away from each other, right? Most of the time we're throwing in the card, oh my God, she's crazy, I can't deal with her issues. Oh my God, he has trust issues and I can't deal with it, or whatever, or we fight each other because of it. All of that stuff is happening because it's supposed to. It's been designed to happen that way.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
It's inevitable. And so I think one thing you're asking is one thing I don't think you asked, but I think would be a good thing to address is like, when is enough? Not just when it comes to like, where do we bring our problems to, and how much should you be someone's therapist, but also when is enough when it comes to dealing with some of the shit that's going to start happening inside relationships because you're going to trigger each other. And the answer to that is enough is enough when you're with somebody who's not willing to do the work with you. Enough is enough when you're with someone who's just completely unconscious of what they're doing and absolutely not willing to seek out a therapist or read a book or see a counselor or talk to somebody about it. You've got to be with somebody who's in a situation where they might not be aware of what's going on yet, because sometimes the awareness piece takes a while. But if you're with somebody who has the willingness to stretch and grow and get uncomfortable and read something, for heaven's sake, there's like a ton of books out there, right?
Yeah, and that's amazing that they can even do that.
There
is a lot.
It's a lot. And, if you love this person and you see potential with this person and even if it's hard right now, like, don't walk away, because if you walk away, then you're bypassing whatever needed to be addressed, not just in you, but in that person. We're really here, relationships, we're in a way, we're here to serve each other's highest selves. And in order to do that, sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable. But if you can sit there, if you can burn, there's that phrase, sitting in the fire. If you can sit in that fire together and not bypass it and not just go, break up with them and get on Tinder and go out drinking every single night because you don't want to deal with it. If you can sit in that fire together and burn through it, what you're ultimately doing is burning away your fear. You're burning away your fear of something, and you're burning away that person's fear of something. And there is no greater gift that you can give yourself or give anyone else than to be that person for someone and to be that person for yourself, even if you decide not to be in that relationship anymore.
Right. And you have to be strong enough to be able to overcome those things because, like we were saying before, it's inevitable that it's going to happen either now in the beginning of the relationship, and if it doesn't happen now in your wonderful honeymoon period, that could be sometimes up to a full year, it's going to eventually happen. And if you plan on even marrying this person, it's definitely going to happen. You guys are going to have fights. You're going to be dealing with some craziness. And it's either, do you want to deal with this now and be strong, or you want to deal with it later? And that's kind of up to you at that point.
Yep.
Ellen, thank you so much. This was great. I'm so glad we did this. I'm so glad we got to just come on and share some of our conversation with the guys who are listening. Every time I talk to you, I feel like we talk about really deep stuff. And I feel like we should have our own podcast where we're recording all these conversations, because we always get into stuff that I know helps a lot of other people. So thanks for coming on last minute.
Idea. Deep. We'll just call it, let's talk about some deep shit.
deep shit with Ellen and Trip. It almost rhymes. Awesome. Thank you so much. And do you still do coaching? But if any guys are listening and they're like, whoa, this Ellen chick is like amazing and she's saying great stuff and I want to talk to her about my dating life or my relationship, do you still offer coaching?
I do. I offer a very limited amount of relationship coaching at this point, because I actually work on I actually help a lot of people build businesses these days. But I do some limited amount of coaching, and I also have a coach on my team who's fabulous if I'm not available. So just send me an email to ellen@ellensmoke.com.
You heard it here, ellen@ellensmoke.com. Don't be shy, please. She's amazing. If you've been following my podcast for the past 106 episodes, you know that there are pretty much almost no one who's been a guest as much as Ellen. And there's a reason for that, because she rocks. So thank you, Ellen. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and write a review. Over 18 and want a question answered on the podcast? Email all your questions to trip@tripadvice.com.